Welcome to the ShadowBear Story Sessions, the podcast about brutally dark, insanely hilarious old folktales and fairy tales. We are going through the original versions of Grimm's fairy tales, the gritty, crazy, insane, dark, messed up, violent originals, and this story might be all of those. We'll see what it is. It's a story titled Dr. Know-It-All. And I already love the sort of mocking tone of the title of this one. We begin. Once upon a time, there was a poor farmer named Crab. You can't. I've loved this so much. We're starting off with a farmer named Crab, you guys. Farmer named Crab. All right, let's get into it. Who drove a cord of wood into town with his 2 oxen and sold the wood to a doctor for 2 gold coins. Must be some real high-quality wood, then. Also, why does a doctor need so much wood? When the farmer went inside to get his money, the doctor was just about to sit down to dinner, and the farmer admired the fine food and drink at the doctor's table. Well, yeah, this doctor's clearly doing very well for himself. He's paying solid gold for wood. He's doing all right. His heart yearned for something like that, and he thought how nice it would be if he were a doctor. I don't know if I would trust someone named Dr. Crab. You know what I mean? Maybe be a fisherman. Be like a fishing magnate. That's a thing, right? Magnate. That's an underused word. They say like baron or industrialist is much more common. Let's get magnate back in the lexicon, guys. He lingered there a while. All right, bad move. Bad move. Don't linger around the doctor as he's eating dinner. He's not going to help you out. He's not going to want to be friends with you and help you in your farming operation if you just sort of linger while he's eating dinner. But if he hasn't paid him yet, then of course you're going to linger. Yeah, pay the man. When he went inside to get his money, he was just about to sit down for dinner. So yes, has he not paid him yet? Because then we assume he paid, because you don't linger when you're waiting. You're waiting when you're waiting. Linger is like you got nothing. You're not there for any particular reason. The word linger is only used when being there is unnecessary. So he lingered there a while and finally asked if it were possible for someone like him to become a doctor. Of course, said the doctor. There's not much to it. Okay, I don't know about that. I don't like to hear. That's not very confidence-inspiring in this doctor's abilities. It's like, oh, doc, it's easy. Someone comes to see you, you're like, you eat some fruit and send them on their way. Although, in fairness, being like a medieval doctor, being an old-timey doctor, probably pretty easy, right? No one has Google. There's no scientific journals. No one knows anything about how the human body works. Leeches were the forefront of medicine for so long, you guys. Leeches were like the Rolls-Royce of the medical community for way too long. So yeah, maybe old-timey doctors, not much to it at all. Of course, said the doctor, there's not much to it. First, buy yourself an ABC book. The kind with the picture of a rooster on it. I really hope that they explain what an ABC book is, because I'm assuming it's not spelling related or just how this doctor refers to dictionaries, because that's also not confidence inspiring. That's what a dumb guy would call a dictionary. Oh yeah, the ABC book, the book with the letters and the words and stuff. He continued, second, you must get cash for your wagon and 2 oxen and purchase some clothes and other things that doctors tend to need. So none of this is really about practicing or learning about medicine. I assume that's what an ABC book is about, but he doesn't really say, like, study it and really, undergo an education with that book. He's just like, just buy it, just get this book. Then get the clothes and, like, accoutrement of a doctor outfit. And also oxen and a wagon? As if you need to be a traveling doctor in old times. Or when maybe you need a wagon because they're going to find out that you can't do medicine and run you out of town, so you're going to need some transportation once that happens. He continues, third, you must have a sign painted with the words, I am Dr. Know-It-All, and nail it above your front door. All right, this feels like a trap now. This feels like a setup. This feels like he's not taking this guy's question seriously at all, and if anything, mocking him. Because there's no way that works. There's no way that's a thing. I would trust someone called Dr. Crab before I would trust someone called Dr. Know-It-All. Because you're like, that's like a self-own. You're like mocking yourself. I would assume you knew something unless you literally, that seems like self-humiliation in some way. It's like, oh, I'm Dr. Know-It-All, you know? Like, you're a bad doctor if you call yourself Dr. Know-It-All. The farmer did everything he was told. All right, I guess we won't find out if this was sarcasm or not, but he's taking it as seriousness. And when he had doctored for some time, but not very long, so I guess it worked. I guess but then again, this is old times, so there's no accreditation board. There's no licenses you need to get. It's medieval times. You're not, getting a certificate from medical school. You're not getting an education. You're just a guy who knows stuff. That's all anyone was back in olden times. There were no accreditations of any kind. You were just, oh, that's the guy who knows how to make plants grow. So he's a farmer. Oh, this is the guy who knows how to catch fish. He's a fisher. This is a guy who knows how to make nails. He's a blacksmith. It's just you're all just guys that know stuff, and what you happen to be doing that day is what you do. So I guess if he's pretending to be a doctor, he is a doctor if people are going to him and paying for it. Am I saying that like everyone was just con men back in the day? Because I don't believe that. But in this instance, he is. He's not a doctor. But if people are paying, again, the morality around this is very in the eye of the beholder. But all right, when he had doctored for, quote, some time but not very long, all right, a rich and mighty nobleman was robbed of some money, and he heard about Dr. Know-It-All, who was living in such and such a village and would probably know what had become of the money. Why? Why the hell would he think a random doctor would know the whereabouts of money that was stolen from him? Oh, maybe because he's like, yeah, Dr. Know-It-All, that's definitely a con man. Or maybe he's just heard about this doctor who's terrible at being a doctor, so is probably definitely a criminal, and is like, he's probably got lots of criminal and or con men friends. So he's part of the underworld. He assumes this man named Dr. Know-It-All is doing something illegal and therefore must be affiliated or know other illegal people or thieves and such. Because otherwise, that doesn't make any sense why he's like, oh, contact the doctor. He'll know who stole my stuff. No. So the nobleman had his carriage prepared, drove out to the village, and inquired. So he's going far away to find this random doctor under the theory that he knows who stole his stuff. There's a lot of there's so many gaps in this. What's an ABC book? Did he do any sort of training after reading the book? Because you need some practical knowledge. They could have. I don't know why they had any of the answers to those questions. He should have just been like, the story should have just been like, the doctor said he would train him, so he lived with him for 2 years, and then put up a sign and then gave him something that said Dr. Know-It-All as a funny in-joke. But the Mr. Crab thought that it was a nice memento of his teacher and person who taught him how to be a doctor, and so he kept it and put it up in his practice. That would be such a more logical explanation for anything that's happened, and would also make me think that, okay, this guy is actually a doctor. That big gap doesn't make sense. Now there's this new thing. A rich guy got his money stolen. So he's contacting this doctor who lives far away? What? Again, who? Why? Who's the nobleman? Why does he think this? Huge gaps. Huge gaps. We continue. Yeah, he went to the village and inquired at the farmer's house. So they're referring to him as a farmer still. So he's not a doctor. He's not a doctor. He's a farmer then. The story itself is referring to him as a farmer. So it's like he's a farmer who's playing doctor. Come on. We know what this is. But all right. And inquired at the farmer's house whether he was Dr. Know-It-All. Yes, that was he, the farmer responded. Then the nobleman requested that he return with him and help him get back his stolen money. Again, I would ask for an explanation. We're not getting one here. It just continues with the farmer agreed. So I don't know why you would. He didn't say he was offered to pay him. I assume so, because why the hell would anyone do this? If I was the farmer crab, I'd be like, why? Why are you here? Why did you find out about me specifically and think I can solve this in any way? Unless Dr. Know-It-All is being marketed as some sort of like life doctor, like, hey, you got a problem with your life? Come see Dr. Know-It-All. I mean, that's definitely a con man too, though. Like that guy's for sure a con man. All right. We have no choice. In the face of so many leaps of logic, we have no choice but to charge ahead into the abyss. And so we shall. The farmer agreed, but added that Greta, his wife, had to come along too. Sure, why not? Bring Greta along, who's not been mentioned in any capacity thus far. Great idea. The nobleman gave his approval, offered them both a seat in his carriage, and they drove off together. When they came to the nobleman's mansion, the table was already set, and Dr. Know-It-All was to eat with the lord, but he wanted his wife Greta to eat with them too. So they all sat down together at the table. Why did that need to be mentioned? Why wouldn't Greta eat with them? Why would she have to eat somewhere else? She's proven of no higher status than Dr. Know-It-All, who has not really done anything at this point, or proven himself a worthy protagonist of this story, or seem like a good guy in any way. So let's just see how this goes. Now, when the first servant arrived with a dish of delicious food, the farmer nudged his wife and said, Greta, that was the first. And he meant that was the man with the first course. But the servant thought he meant that's the first thief. And since he really was the thief, he got scared and went out to tell his accomplices. And he told the accomplices, the doctor knows everything. There's trouble ahead. He said I was the first. All right. I'm so on board for this. Like, now this is becoming just like a comedy of errors. And considering how nonsensical the story has been thus far, I am so here for this being this type of story. If this is a story that doesn't take itself seriously, let's go. Let's get goofy with it, guys. Let's do this. The second servant didn't even want to go in, but he had no choice. When he entered with his dish, the farmer nudged his wife and said, Greta, that's the second. Why is Greta like, who's stupid here? Because one of these people is stupid. Is the farmer like so dumb that he needs to affirm either to himself? If he's dumb himself, then he needs to like affirm it to himself, or he's just like saying what he thinks and commenting on stuff in real time, which is what he's doing. But it's kind of like, if you're Greta, you're like, yeah, I know. They're bringing it out. I can see that, obviously. But he's like, hey, that's the second dish. It's like, cool, man, for sure. What do you think of it? I don't know. It's the second one. All right. We need to spell it out, really, for this guy, the farmer. Again, I don't think he's a doctor. None of this belies the intelligence and analytical mind of a doctor. Granted, there are dumb doctors out there, I'm sure. There's dumb everything out there. We continue. The servant, too, got scared and hurried out. The third fared no better. Okay, but they're hurrying out. At this point, they're seeing that like there's no consequences to this man saying that's the first, that's the second. They're not the guards aren't like descending upon them in those moments. So why are they so terrified? Just, I guess guilty conscience. Gonna have to go with that, guilty conscience, because otherwise this makes no sense. There's no consequences if they are being identified as the thieves. The third fared no better. Again, the farmer said, Greta, that's the third. By the third one, Greta's gonna be like, I know, I get it. I understand how this works. We're at dinner. They bring out the dishes one at a time. I can count the dishes myself. Thanks, Crab. I got this one. The fourth had to carry in a covered dish, and the nobleman asked the doctor to demonstrate his skill and guess what lay under the cover. Crabs were being served. Hey. And when the farmer looked at the covered dish, he had no idea what to say. Finally, he blurted out, Poor me, poor crab. Oh, this guy's real dumb. This guy's like, I feel bad for this guy now. When the nobleman heard that, he exclaimed, There, he knows. I'm sure he must also know who has the money. Wow. So Crab is really lucking into a series of events here. But also now I just feel bad for making fun of him. This guy's this guy's pretty pathetic. But again, he shouldn't be a doctor. This man should not be a doctor. Please don't perform medicine on anyone. Still have no idea why he was asked to provide this service. Man, but yeah, so he just like has a meltdown when he's asked to guess what's underneath. But even if he's like the world's greatest detective, that doesn't mean he can predict. He's not psychic. He's not hiring a psychic, this nobleman. He's trying to hire a detective. So was he like, hey, guess what this is? Also, this is coming apropos of nothing. This is completely out of the blue. He's like, because he doesn't know the weird sort of like misunderstanding between the servants thinking he's correctly guessing that this is just him completely out of nowhere. The fourth dish is brought out and he's like, hey, guess what's in it? Which I guess people do. People do weird stuff like that. Hey, can you guess this? Can you guess that? And it's just like something random, which I think is dumb. It's like, I don't know. Like when people say like you were dating or just a friend or like, guess what my job is? Like, I don't know. I don't know you. Like, or like, guess where my accent's from. That's never a good question. I don't know. And don't guess. That's a bad thing to guess. That's asking for trouble. Or like guess anything. Like anytime you tell someone guess something about, especially when it's about you or yourself, some detail, it's a dick move. It's not cool. But yeah, this sort of thing, dumb, super dumb. Don't tell people to just guess random stuff. But in any event, the nobleman is now convinced of his psychic ability, which we didn't even know he wanted. We thought he was going for deductive reasoning, but all right, random blind psychic ability. And also if he's guessing correctly, but like having a meltdown and like clearly having a hard time, poor me, poor crab, and referring to himself in the third person, he's clearly melting down in front of your very eyes. He didn't say this confidently. I wouldn't be like, wow, he knew. I'd be like, is he okay? Like, he's right, but like, is he all right? In any event, we continue. The servant was frightened to death and winked at the doctor to step outside for a moment. Okay. When he got outside, all four servants confessed to him that they had stolen the money. They proposed that he take charge of it and offered a large sum in addition if he would not expose them. So they're offering to give the money back and pay him not to give them away. Otherwise, they would soon be dangling from the gallows. Then they led him to the place where they had hidden the money. The doctor was satisfied. Now he's a doctor? Now you're referring to him as a doctor? Come on. The doctor was satisfied, went back inside, sat down at the table, and said, Sir, now I intend to look in my book to see where the money's been hidden. Interesting. I'm just gonna, well, at this point, I don't think we know they're not going to address this. But at this point, like, if he did know exactly where the money was and where it was hidden at this point, having undergone nothing, no type of investigation whatsoever, I would be suspicious of him if he knew exactly where the money was. I'd be like, okay, you stole it then. Probably. Maybe the fact that he just feigned psychic ability is going to get him out of that one. I'm guessing this is all going to work out very well for Crab, even though I don't like him or want him to have good things. He's done nothing nice to show that he's a deserving person. But in any event, we continue. In the meantime, the fifth servant had crawled into the stove to see if he could hear what else the doctor knew. All right, buddy, I feel like if you're in the stove, you could probably hear less than if you were just outside of the stove, like peering through the wall, or like, glass up against the wall or ear against the wall, or in a door frame. Maybe try that. Stoves are generally pretty contained spaces, which is why the heat stays in. Science. In any event, as the doctor sat there at the table, he opened his ABC book and turned the pages back and forth, looking for the rooster. What? What is an ABC book? There's a rooster in it? How is that anything to do with doctoring or being a doctor? This is ridiculous. And also, if he's like, I know where it is, and then he opens a doctor, like his doctor's manual, or what he read to learn how to be a doctor, again, that has nothing to do with solving crime. Like, what are you doing? So he's looking for the rooster in his ABC book. Since he couldn't find it right away, so he doesn't even know the book very well. It's not like he even studied this book. He's looking for a rooster in his ABC book, and he can't find it. Crab. Oh, man, Crab, you are a sad, sad man, Mr. Crab. All right, since he couldn't find it right away, he said, I know you're there. I'm bound to find you. Oh, bless him. He's so dumb. He's saying that to a rooster in a book. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna find you, rooster. Oh, sweet, sweet Crab. I can't hate this man. He's just so dumb. He's just so stupid that he's not winning me over. But I feel bad critiquing him in any way. And yet, I will stand on the hill of he shouldn't be a doctor. Like, he's real dumb. Okay, sure. But we need to stop this man from giving people medical treatment. Because this is a dumb guy. This is a real sad, dumb guy. We continue. The servant in the stove thought that the doctor was talking about him, and he jumped out of the stove in fright and said, that man knows everything. Oh. All right, I'm not even. Then Dr. Know-It-All showed the nobleman where the money was, but he didn't reveal who had stolen it. As a reward, he received money from both sides and became a famous man. The end. All right. Okay, sure. If he found it, he's supposed to be psychic, right? Again, he's supposed to be a doctor. I don't know why this presents him as a person who's capable of solving a crime in any event, but he is picked out by the nobleman to do so. He then finds the money under the guise of being a psychic, but doesn't reveal who did it. If he found the money as a psychic, he needs to be able to say who did it. Otherwise, he did it. Otherwise, I'm for sure saying you did it. You got to say who did it. You have to say who did it. Otherwise, he definitely did it. But he gets money from both sides here. What is the lesson in this? I guess the lesson is just some people fail themselves into success. Some sad, dumb people are just so blindly lucky, and other people think, other people do the mental work for him. Interesting. That actually is something that you interestingly could take away from this, is that other people may do the mental work that you are undeserving, or someone is undeserving of. People can, I'm not going to place the ourselves in the role of Crab here, because I would feel entirely undeserving and wouldn't want this, but because there's no way anyone respects this man, because some people can be in positions in which others do the mental work of aggrandizing them or of bestowing upon them status or abilities that they have not demonstrated or are not capable of. Yeah, I think that's actually a fantastic, interesting lesson. That's why I love these stories so damn much. This is the dumbest story. This is like such a dumb story, but you can think about it in an interesting way. And even though it was dumb, it was still fun as hell. And we still took something interesting from it. And it's something very true, I believe, as well. All right. I'm a fan. That's the thing. I rip these to shreds, these stories. And still, I'm into it. Every time. Love them. Gonna think of an adaptation? Let's see what we get. See you after the break. All right. We've got an adaptation. So, this one is going to be a movie, because I don't think a character just getting through situations by sheer coincidence is really sustainable enough to sustain an entire TV show, really. I mean, okay, you could make it work, probably. I mean, you see Dexter? Anyone watch Dexter? Because by the end, it was like, all right, guys, you're all police officers. How has nobody caught on to what Michael C. Hall is doing here? But so you can make it work, but I don't want to make it work, so I'm going to do a movie. That's where we're going to be. We got a protagonist, a man named Mr. Crab, because I still love that name very much. But I'm going to spell it Krabbe, because that's a real name, right? I feel like that's a real name. The spelling, I don't know if I clarified, the spelling in the original story was straight up Mr. Crab, Crab, like the animal. And I don't know that I've ever seen someone named that, but I feel like I have seen someone named Krabbe, Crab. So, still gonna be named Mr. Crab. I love Mr. Crab. I'm a SpongeBob fan. Anyway, this is going to take place in medieval times still, because I think that's a great location for a farce. I love a period farce, a period comedy. And might as well go way back when talking about the time period. And Mr. Crab is played by Bill Hader. I'm going to tell you, I was very pleased with myself with this casting. I'm a fan, big fan. I feel like he would do a great job of all of the humor, but the facial expressions too. When someone's giving him like credit that he's not due, really, or that he didn't earn, I feel like his eyes and his face would do a great job of conveying like, I do not deserve this and don't know how I feel about this, but I will roll with it for my own benefit. And let's start off the same, or similarly at least. Bill Hader, he's a farmer. He delivers a couple big bags of turnips to a doctor. He's a farmer. Why in the original story is he delivering wood to a doctor? That has nothing to do with farming. Farming wood is being like a lumberjack or someone who otherwise produces lumber. You're a farmer, you make produce and things of that nature. So, Bill Hader is a turnip farmer, because why not? So he's delivering a bunch of turnips to this doctor, because the doctor uses them to make some type of disgusting old-timey medicine or tonic, because that's what they did back in the day. They just made a bunch of gross stuff that had some type of plant in it, and it tasted sharp, and so people assumed it was healthy. And so Bill, he sees this doctor in a great, big, nice house, and he's like, hey, this is pretty cool. Can I be a doctor? And the doctor's like, you know what? Sure, you could be my apprentice. I'm a lonely widower and could use the company, so stay here and live with me and keep everything clean, and I'll teach you how to be a doctor, and then you can take up after me, or when I pass away, or go off before I pass away and create your own practice. But in fact, I use your turnips in a lot of my healing tonics. They're great, so, you've got access to that stuff already. So Bill is like, cool, man. And he takes him up on it. And the next day, Bill, he's all excited to become a doctor. And then the doctor's first patient arrives with just a very bad cold, and he just keeps sneezing. He can't stop sneezing, and he keeps spilling his tea everywhere. And the doctor says, I'll be right back with a tonic that'll get you nice and fixed up. Hey, Bill, just clean up all this spilled tea. Or, hey, Mr. Crab, right? Wink, wink. And so the doctor, he leaves, and Bill, he's a friendly guy. He's not super on top of it mentally, but he's friendly. And so he starts chatting to the fellow, and he gets distracted in a nice conversation. He's like, this is going to be great. I'm going to be a doctor. And so then the doctor gets back, and the patient lets out a huge sneeze, and it startles the doctor so badly that he bobbles the bottle of tonic, and then he slips on one of the spills that Bill didn't clean up because he got distracted talking to the patient, and then the doctor bangs his head on a table and instantaneously dies. Yeah, we're getting into it. And Bill's like, oh my God. And they send for the Undertaker to come get his body. And Bill, he just waves as the body is being taken away. I don't know why, but I really like that image of Bill just waving at the door. And the patient, he's like, oh, well, thank goodness he was training you as an apprentice, because now you can take over. People here really need a doctor. And Bill is like, he's thinking to himself, it's like, they don't know that this was my first day. I could just slide right in here and be a doctor, I guess. And so Bill uses the only medical knowledge that he has, which is that the doctor used his turnips for some stuff, and just starts making all kinds of tonics and ointments using his turnips. And it turns out most of what people are coming to him for are just like coughs and colds and things that mostly go away on their own. And so people, they start to trust him, and they treat him with the respect of a real doctor, because it's olden times and they don't know anything about medicine or science. And he is in a doctor's office and wears the doctor's stuff and says the doctor's stuff. And so they just go with it. And anything he doesn't know, he just very confidently rolls with it. And this is one instance where, like, being kind of dumb kind of helps him, where he just sort of is like, all right, let's do that, or let's do this. Just says things factually, and people believe him. And so one day, a very wealthy nobleman was out on a hunt and suddenly arrives at the doctor's office screaming. And Bill's like, oh man, your leg is all bent. And the guy's like, yeah, it's broken. It really hurts. And Bill's like, it should be straight, though. We should make it straight, I bet. And the guy's like, can you do that, please? And Bill's like, yeah, sure, man, I guess. And he snaps it straight, and he wraps it up in fabric soaked in turnip juice. And the guy's like, thank you so much, doctor. And Bill Hader, he's like, cool, sure. And he takes a bunch of money, and he just waves at the man as the man leaves. And he's just really chill and unfazed by stuff, which comes across as being very confident and knowledgeable. That's a thing in real life. You just don't seem very bothered and say things factually. People tend to believe you. And that's what happens here, even though he's just because he doesn't know anything and is kind of a well-intentioned fool. But he's sweet and he's likable. And so that gets you far too. And so a week later, the nobleman returns. And he's like, your confidence and steady hand are unlike anything I've ever seen, Dr. Crab. You will be my royal doctor because I'm not a nobleman but a king. And he brings him to the castle. So now we got Bill Hader as Dr. Crab, the royal doctor. And they become quite good friends. It takes a shine to Dr. Bill here. And all these random things keep happening to make him think that Bill is brilliant and maybe even psychic or magic. And then there's rumors, there's murmurs that a rebel group is trying to kill the king. And one evening, there's a group of dancers who've come to perform for the king. And one of them is doing his dancing, and he's actually good. But Bill does not appreciate art or dancing of any kind. He hates it. He doesn't get it or like it at all. And he's like, man, this is so bad. It's like he's trying to kill us with his bad dancing. but the music is like super loud. So the king who's next to him can't hear him. He's like, what? And Bill is like, the dancers trying to kill us. And he makes a finger across his throat gesture and then points at the king. And and so the king thinks that he's saying that the dancer is going to kill him and is the man who's there to kill him. So the king immediately freaks out instantaneously, and he has the dancer seized by the guards, and Bill is like horrified. He's like, oh no, man. And he's like, this is bad. But the guards, they find a knife hidden in the dancer's costume. And when they find it, the dancer just immediately starts launching into a tirade against the king. And now he would have killed him if not for whatever magic found him out. And now his rebel group meant this was their best chance and all this stuff. And so Bill, by sheer coincidence and by hating dancing, turned out to be correct, even though he didn't even realize what he was saying. And they kill that guy. They kill that dancer right then and there in front of everyone. And Bill is super alarmed and freaked out by this, but he's getting praised as a savior by the king. So he's like, cool. Yeah, I got your back, king. But then, as time goes on, the king just becomes gradually more and more paranoid to the point where he's just killing people all the time. And he's really not a good guy. And Bill is terrified of him, but through luck, just keeps skating by, just keeps getting by and being given credit for things. And then the whole castle gets sick with this plague-like illness, except for Bill Hader. And the king asks him to heal them all, so Bill is like, well, I have no idea what to do here, but I'm just going to do what I know how to do, which is to make a turnip-based medicine. And so he sets about doing this, and he administers it to the entire royal family, because the king is like, I don't care about anyone but my family and the other royals. Let everyone else die. And he forces Bill to make a fake version of the medicine to give to everyone else so that they'd think that he was giving them medicine, even though he wasn't. And then the entire royal family dies. And it turns out it was such a large quantity, and Bill Hader took so long to make it because he was so nervous about it working, that by the time he finished it, it had gone bad and essentially turned into poison. So through his incompetence, he poisoned the king and the entire royal family. But the tonic that he'd given to the normal people and the servants and the guards was just fine because he didn't really spend much time on it because he didn't really care about it. And by luck, the illness gradually lifted from the castle because it just was always going to anyway. And then the king's main advisor says, oh my goodness, Dr. Crab, Dr. Bill Hader, he has saved us, and he's killed the evil king. I overheard the king planning to keep Bill Hader's magical cure for himself and his own family and to let us all die by giving us a fake serum. But Dr. Crab, Dr. Bill, has switched the serums. He saved us, and he finally freed us from the hateful rule of the evil king who is gradually killing us all. And they're all like, you're our hero now, Mr. Crab, Bill Hader. You're the king now. And they all cheer, and Bill Hader is the king. And he's super chill and super nice, and it turns out he's actually a really great and nice and cool king, and everyone likes him. And they all lived happily ever after. The end. And the movie will be called Dr. Know-It-All, just like the original story, because I gotta be honest, great title. Love the title. Love the name Mr. Crab. I credit where credit's due. They got some things right. They got some things correct in that in the original story. But and I liked the original story, but I like that adaptation too. Let's do it. Call it Bill Hader. I don't know. He'd be into it. Let him. I don't know. He'd write something infinitely better, I'm sure. But yeah, fun times for everyone. That'll do it for this week's episode of the ShadowBear Story Sessions. Go ahead and give a like, give a subscribe, the notification bell, all that stuff that I'm supposed to say, so that you'll watch more of this. I just like doing it. If you like watching it, then yeah, come on back, watch. I got a lot more rate, review, comment, all the stuff, and I will see you next time. See you later. Goodbye. I'm terrible at sign-offs.